Hello, it seems like I'm live now. Looking at this. Yes, I'm live. Otherwise, I will be talking to myself a lot. My name's Duncan, and welcome to Back Away from Donkey and Back to Books. And this is a bit of a difference for me because I am going to be doing a live sort of roundup of the month. I've been sort of absent for a while because we had building works and then I had visitors and just sort of got out of the trend of it. So I need to scratch my nose. So I thought it's a way to leap back into it. And the thing that I was thinking about doing anyway is because when I do sort of round up a month, I sort of a bit despondent about them. Yeah, thanks, Gavin. Gavin's just asked me whether I am live, but yes. So I just thought I'd try this experiment out of doing a sort of roundup of the books I've read and some films and TV and stuff, and doing it live because it's just less production, and also what I will be doing hopefully over the next few weeks with some proper videos. So yeah, it's lovely to see you, Gavin. I wasn't expecting anybody to turn up in this first one. Just to warn everybody, I have my window open because it's hot here, and I tried shutting it and it was too hot. So if my dogs go off, it's because they've heard somebody scratching their nose outside, and that is possibility to happen. Though for us, it's not as hot as it is for those down south. It's about, I mean, outside it's about 18 degrees, which for us is a heat wave here in the far north, but for down south, my friend down in Somerset, he was saying it was 38, 39 degrees the other day. So, yes, I'm glad I don't live down south of England anymore. So, yeah, so I'm going to start off by just generally talking about the books I've read recently and anything about them. So, I'm going to start with the one I've just finished. The other week I read Royal Highness, Puppet Masters, with as a read along with Gavin from Genre Books, whom Gavin's doing his 100 Years of Science Fiction one, and we made a video which is going to be out at some point. And because of that, I had this urge to read Jack Finney's Body Snatchers, which I just finished today. I haven't read it for quite a few years, and all I can say is Body Snatchers. It is so good. I forgot how good it is. The sort of sense of paranoia. Most of you must know the general plot of it, or at least seen one of the films. But it is so good. And the sense of paranoia, it works for me far better than Highness Puppet Masters in the paranoia, and we haven't got the random nudity for no apparent reason. Which, if you see the video I did with Gavin when he finally releases it, it'll all be explained then. Give me 2 seconds. I just want to move something so I can see comments a bit easier if anybody else turns up. But yes, it really is good. And Jack Finney, from what I remember, he only wrote 2 science fiction books. Time After Time was the other one, which is a time travel-y thing, which is really good. So yeah, the Body Snatchers, loved it again, and it is better than the Puppet Masters. Though I did enjoy the Puppet Masters because I really do like some Heinlein at points, but Heinlein's Puppet Masters is big scale, big world building stuff, and a sort of typical sort of Heinlein sort of how he does sort of builds worlds around them. But this is far more intimate, a little sort of village. And if you've never seen any of the films, if you watch the original 1950s one, which was it Howard Hawks? I can't remember. And then you need to watch the 1970 ones, which has got Leonard Nimoy and Donald Sutherland in, which is the best version. I was saying that there is an Abel Ferrara version from the 1990s with, what's it, Gabrielle Anwar's in it. And that is a really quite interesting version. There's lots of versions. I might have to do them. I am planning actually on doing a video sort of on body replacement books. So which probably won't be for sort of a month or so after Gavin's released his video and that, because I don't want to step on his toes with that. But I'm probably going to mention some of the films then. Yes, Pom. My little Pomeranian decided to chime in then. So what else have I read? Just have a quick look at my notes here. I also read Star Wars. If you want to go to comics, Star Wars Dark Empire 1, 2, and 3, which is part of what they used to call the expanded universe that Disney sort of blew up. But I'm just going to mention that quickly because it is part 1 is really good, and it's the first introduction of a clone emperor. Which, for people who complain about the clone emperor in the last one, it's been done before. But yeah, I just wanted to have a brief mention of that. Yeah, according to Gavin, he's just put a message up. The video will be out a week today, the one on the Puppet Masters. And it's a really interesting discussion we had. So keep an eye out for that. Gavin's doing some ridiculous thing of reading ridiculous amounts of books and talking to everybody about them. I've got 2 more that I'm doing with him in the short term, and I think I've got some longer term ones I'm doing with him, which I will explain after I've done this. So other than that, I also listened to Harry Potter. Weirdly, Harry Potter, they had a new audio version out, and I was quite intrigued by it. My wife read the books and what have you, and I thought, so what's all this about? So I actually listened to this, and I'm confused. What I'm confused is how it's not bad, but it's not earth-shattering. I'm confused about how all these adults got into it and why everybody loved it so much. Because it's nothing, it's competently written. It's got some interesting ideas into it. But to me, it's like, yeah, it's weird. I know I'm not a target market, but I'm just intrigued that some publishers sat there, read that, and thought, this is going to be a worldwide phenomenon. We're going to sell lots of books of it, because I just don't see it. It was, yeah, the actual audio adaptation is quite well. I think it's got Hugh Laurie and a few other people in it. And if you're into Harry Potter, you probably would really, really love it. But I was just sort of an intrigue thing. It was just something to have on in the background when I was doing some stuff. But anyway, let's move on to something a little more thing. Circle, Dave Eggers. I've got, sorry. I've also got here the sequel, the Every, which I've not read. But the Circle I finished. And the Circle is a very weird, it's about a social media company that basically starts everything in the world, and everything goes through it. And it's about the dangers of social media and about privacy. And me, as a sort of bit of a privacy nut on the internet and stuff, I don't even have a Facebook account anymore. And I don't use a smartphone. Really, my smartphone has got no apps left on it at all. It's literally used for 1 or 2 things. That's it. But it's quite interesting book about the concepts of it. I am going to do a proper video on it, but what I found interesting was it was done in 2010, the book, and it was like foreshadowing a lot of the conversations about privacy and internet privacy and control of media controlling everything. And there's great pages describing all this. But for me, as a novel, it doesn't quite work, because the main character, whose name is May Holland, she's a bit of a sort of believes everything everybody tells her character, but not in a way that you would believe the character, in a way that's you think it's just there for the plot. As ideas for discussion and about privacy and the internet, it's an interesting book, but as a novel, doesn't 100% work for me. I did read it quite quickly, I must admit, but the ideas interest me. And also, I think he could have pushed forward a bit more. The problem with writing science fiction for stuff that's still going on almost is not that you can lose, the technology catches up with you. Lots of 1950s books, I read a lot of science fiction that technology's overtaken them and gone different things. But this one was so close, the way it was developing, it was obvious what was going to happen. So he's not really pushed forward enough in it. So in 20 years, people look back and reading this, and this book won't just be the technology that's overtaken it. The conversations will have sort of gone. So I cannot see it being a really, really long-lived book. I said I did enjoy my read of it, but because of the conversations and the bit, but there was literally pages of them sort of almost preaching to you. So that was the Circle. And I said I do have the sequel here, the Every, which is sort of a continuation of the thing, but more with a company that sort of turns into something like Amazon and fulfilling orders and things like that. And to tell you the truth, it's a ridiculously long book. It's 600 pages long. And for a book to be 600 pages long, it's going to be really interesting. I'm not going to commit myself to 600 pages of that. There's other stuff I'd rather read. So I probably won't. And these aren't books I would keep. They will go to the local free library or to the charity shop. I think I'll pick them up cheap somewhere like that anyway. because they're not, about time we'll reread them. Excuse me while I get a sip of water a second. So that's the second. I will be doing a full video on this. I've got most of it written down I want to say, so I'll probably be recording the next couple of days. So I didn't really have a big reading week because my in-laws were here for, was it a week? It felt like months. And I didn't do much reading that week, but a bit of comics and stuff, because it was just quite stressful and a lot going on. So yeah, Body Snatchers I read. Oh, what I was going to say about the Body Snatchers, this is Masterworks. Okay. Oop, put it in front of the camera. This is meant to be the best of Masterworks. So we now have the best of Masterworks. We have Golden Age Masterworks. We have Masterworks by themselves. And it's getting really, really, I think they're getting a bit confusing. I've always had a few little issues with Masterworks because when they came out, they were originally, they're meant to be the best of sort of works that were out of print and stuff like that. And then they started doing things like Dune, and who needs another copy of Dune because it's never been out of print and there's millions of different copies of it. But the past few years, they got more interesting with some of the works they picked up. But now you've got the best of Masterworks, which is reprinting some of the stuff they printed before. I think it's getting a wee bit confusing. I do like those yellow covers. That was just a by the by. So, what am I going to be reading through July? At the moment, I've got two books here that I am be reading along with Gavin for part of his 100 years one, and one is Bradbury's I Sing the Body Electric, which is short stories, which contains, I think, one of the stories from the Martian Chronicles. It's got a bit dark out there. The sun's just gone in. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, The Lost City of Mars, which is one of the stories from the Martian Chronicles, which, of course, I love. So I'm looking forward to that because there's quite a few stories in there. Quite a few stories in here that I've not read before. And the other one I will be reading with him, which is the first one I'm going to hit, is The Songs of Distant Earth. Another Arthur C. Clarke. And if you see my Make Me Love Arthur C. Clarke run, which is now I Love Arthur C. Clarke because he's turning into one of my favourite authors, it's going to be a collection, be a video on that for that, and obviously one with Gavin about that. And this one's quite interesting. I think it's on a life ship as well. A story about a life ship. And we like a good life ship in our science fiction. And it was originally published in one of his later ones, 86, I think, first publication. So the other thing I will be reading this month is I've decided, weirdly talking about the Harry Potter thing I talked about earlier on, I read somewhere somebody saying that the reason the wizard school trope existed was because of Harry Potter. This was obviously somebody very young, because they thought about things like The Worst Witch, which was published in 1971, and things like Earthsea. I am going to reread this month because I've not read it for probably 20 or so years, and I just sort of dug my copy out of what I need to reread Earthsea because I remember it being incredibly good, and I think sometimes it's underrated. And I'm not a huge Le Guin fan, but I remember adoring Earthsea. So yeah, I'm going to be reading that this month. I'm looking forward to doing some videos on it as well. Let's talk about it. I said if anybody else wants to join me, they can always. And the other book I will definitely be reading is a book of short stories that I showed a couple of months ago, which is Anthology of New Indian Science Fiction and Fantasy, Volume 1. And this is for my series of books that have either translated or from different continents that are science fiction from a different angle. So I'm looking forward to that. So those are the main books I will be reading. I will probably do some other random bits. I've got a few bits hanging around that I may read, but you never really know, because I can be a bit random and suddenly change my mind. Like reading The Body Snatchers was just a spur of the moment after talking about the Puppet Masters. Just made me want to read that. So I'll have a quick look at my notes here. Oh, that's notes. All my notes on Puppet Master. Yep, so that's all the books I've read, basically. A lot less than normal, just basically because of visits and stuff. I may have missed a couple, probably. So I'm just going to round up a few things I've been watching recently. Anybody interested? So start with some films. Last night I watched actually Avatar, the third one, Fire and Ash, which I enjoyed more than the second one. I think the films, the fact that James Horner sadly died, the composer, makes a huge difference. Ruby, that's a seagull. Ruby, sorry about that. I knew that was going to be the problem with doing live with the window open. Ruby Roomster, yes, you. Thank you. There's a seagull outside getting a bit carried away. But yes, Avatar, what's it called again? Fire and Ash. It was really weird that the story was basically the same as the second film, which was quite weird. But I preferred it the second film because there was less of Zoe Shalanda screaming, which she seemed to do a lot in the second one. Ruby! Sorry about that. Firm voice. But the animation is really weird because it's obviously come across all the motion capture stuff, but it looked so real in some ways that it was almost off-putting and looked weird. But I read somewhere today that Cameron mixed between 24 and 48 frames a second, the way the film is shown, which explains to me why some of it looked weird, because you almost get into the point when if you get a new modern TV and they put motion smoothing on, TV looks really, really weird and the films look really, really bad. It's because of the motion smoothing. And I think some of the animation almost looked like that. It was quite strange and other things, but it's stunning what they've managed to do. But yeah, as I said, the plot is very much the same as the second one. So if he's going to continue with these films, he needs to do something different with them. They need to leave the planet or something, or I don't know, but they need to do something a bit different with them. But yeah, I enjoyed it anyway. Another films I watched, a film called Dogs on the Sindaro, which is a Canadian indie film about a guy whose wife is sadly killed in a school shooting, and he goes out in his motorhome or RV, Americans call them, with their little dog called Rosie, who's a little party Yorkshire Terrier, and it's traveling around and it's like finding himself, and it's just a really, really nice, sweet little film. And as a person here who cries at any film ever, I did at this one, obviously. So that one, and another film I watched was Over Your Dead Body, which got Jason Segel and Samara Weaving, which was another sort of film about a guy and his wife who go to their cabin, and basically he's planned to kill her and she's planned to kill him, and it all gets a bit gory and weird and fun. And that one. Then I also watched, which for some reason I'd never seen before, Mosquito Coast. I read the book many, many decades ago, and I cannot remember much about it, so I need to dig it out and read it again. Harrison Ford, and it's a Peter Weir film. Peter Weir did a Master and Commander, which is like one of my favorite all-time films. He also did his first film was called The Cars Ate Paris, and this was not Paris in France. It was a town in Australia with all these weird cars and that, and that's a really interesting film. He's a really, really creative and the individual director. He did The Truman Show, but The Mosquito Coast is really about a man's obsession and ego, and Harrison Ford is excellent in it. And I enjoyed the film, but it's not a film that you'd rewatch for fun, because it is really, really quite emotionally hard going, and it's really, I think, probably one of Ford's best performances ever. And it's a shame that after this film, he went off and did a bunch of action films, which were all fun and what have you, but because this film flopped at the cinema, he didn't get roles this meaty given to him afterwards, which is quite a shame, because he can be a really good actor. A lot of him pointing at things and shouting, which, if you like films with him doing that, that's for you. So yeah, that was Gallipoli. Was it Peter Weir did Gallipoli? Mel Gibson? Don't know. Can't remember. And then I watched a new version of The Running Man, which was directed by Edgar Wright. And who did it have in it? Glenn Owens, I think, and William H. Macy, Common Domingo, Edgar Wright directed it, who did Baby Driver and the Cornetto trilogy. He's a really good director, and it was disappointing. I obviously loved the Schwarzenegger version, but it wasn't just that. It wasn't that. It just, you didn't get into the hunters or anything. It felt a bit lifeless. Every now and then you saw a bit of Edgar Wright's directorial flair, but I don't know whether it was just a bit dull, really. Which sounds weird about a sort of. If you want to watch a good one, there's the French film, The Price of Peril, from 1970 something, which is one that they reckon that the Running Man almost ripped off. I think it went to court, or was that with the German version? There's a couple of them around, but that's well worth watching. I have copies of it and elsewhere. But yeah, the new version of Running Man was dull. As a lot of new films seem to be. What else did I watch? I saw a film called Roofman, which we sort of watched randomly, with Channing Tatum, which has got the worst title of any film ever. And the trailer made it look like a bit of a comedy, and it wasn't. It was about this guy who basically is robbing places, going through their roofs like a McDonald's with cash, and he's known as Roofman. Apparently, it's vaguely based on a true story, probably very loosely, and he ends up hiding inside going to prison for something. Then he escapes from prison and he hides inside a Toys R Us store. And it's an interesting little film, but nothing spectacular. And I said the trailer was terrible. And the highlight of my film watching was probably Remarkably Bright Creatures, which has got Sally Field in and a guy called Lewis Pullman and an octopus. And it's about this young guy who travels back to his mother dies, and he travels back to the town where she came from. And you got Sally Field as a cleaner in a aquarium, and there's this octopus in there. And all I know is I want an octopus to give me life advice. It's a really, really, really good film, and Sally Field was excellent in it. And that's from a book of the same name, which Rosie, my wife, has just listened to, and she said it's really good as well. So I have to pick that up to read it. I think, and as you see, we do watch quite a few films because I said my wife has a disability, so we don't get out very many places. So we watch quite a lot of stuff. So yeah, that was my films. And if I do the TV, I saw between my reading and dog walking. I have a sip of water. I need you, if anybody watches after the fact or watching me now, to tell me if this sort of format works. But my plan is to be doing this at the sort of last Sunday of every month. That's my plan. It may not work, but we will do. So yeah, TV wise, what have we got here? I wrote down. I've been rewatching House. Hugh Laurie in House, which I haven't watched for probably since it came out, even though I do own the DVDs. And rewatching that, I'm up to about season 4 or 5. I have it on the kitchen when I'm doing stuff. What I realised is how that man was not fired or done for sexual assault. I've got no way ever. As somebody who's spent many years in the medical field in hospital, I don't get it at all. But it's still very good. But there's some weird bits in it that you watch and think that didn't actually age that particularly well. But I really enjoy House. Recently, we've been watching Watson, which is like a modern, weird take on Sherlock Holmes, which you're following Watson, who ends up being an American doctor, and Sherlock Holmes dies, and then they open this clinic. It's basically an excuse to do a version of House, and it is really, really quite strange. It went around for 2 seasons, and I think we're nearly at the end of it, but it's a bit weird. They weren't really sure what to do with it, and I like myself a good sort of Sherlock Holmes adaptation. The American version Elementary, to me, is better than the UK version Sherlock, which I thought was just a bit too clever for its own good. Well, thought it was. The other thing we've been watching is Jack Ryan, a series of Jack Ryan, which is obviously from the Tom Clancy books, which I really quite enjoyed, even though the plot's got rather convoluted terms. I think we've just got the film left to watch of that, and that's about it. on my watching for the month. What I will say is I've just pre-ordered, Blu-ray wise. This is just an excuse. This is an excuse to talk about Blake 7. Okay? Blake 7, the 1979-80 science fiction TV series from the BBC. And the new Blu-rays are released. That's Series 1, Series 2. Series 3 I've just pre-ordered because it's out in December. And these are new releases that have been done in HD. And they've done what they've done with some episodes of Doctor Who and redone some of the special effects. And I've seen some of the special effects look really quite good, actually, and look well in keeping, because I have issues when they do that. When they did this to Star Trek, renewed some of the special effects and released them on DVD, they didn't give you the choice to watch the old special effects. Luckily, I have all the old original DVDs of that, so it didn't make them different. And I'm all for them. If they want to do them, that's fine, but they need to give you access to the original ones. And these Blake 7 ones are like the Doctor Who ones that have got access to the old ones. But they seem to, in most of the cases, done a really good, sympathetic job. And I was reading a thing for Matt Irving, and if you don't know, Matt Irving effects for Doctor Who, Blake 7, many other things. Man's a bit of a genius, really. He totally designed the Liberator, the Blake 7 spaceship, and the Scorpio. But for the special effects for the new ones they were shooting for these ones, he actually went back in and they used the original models and reshot the stuff. But he was saying it was quite ironic because they wanted to do it for HD, but because the original shots were actually shot on film, technically they were HD anyway. But they obviously just wanted better in print. But yeah, that was just my excuse to talk about Blake 7. So I'm looking forward to that one coming in about December, but that was just a weird pre-order. So yes, I've told you about my reading for the next month. I'm looking forward. I think the one I'm looking forward to most is probably rereading Earthsea, just because I've not read a really, really good fantasy for a while. I'm hoping to have 2 videos out this week, and I'm behind on a load of tag videos I was going to do, but I said I have been absent generally for quite a while. Oh. Hey Gareth, I see Gareth's just joined us. So yeah, I'm hoping to get back in, as I said, get back into Earthsea when that comes. The Blake 7 ones, as I was saying, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here. The Blake 7 Blu-rays, the HD ones, I'm very tempted to start rewatching them now before the 3rd season comes out, because I've got the original DVDs that I brought. That own all 4 seasons, and I'm the weird person that really likes the final season, which has got the different spaceship in. Yeah, Gareth, you've only read the first one. Yeah, no, Earthsea's really, really good. The first 3 are stunning from what I remember. I've not read them for years. And the 4th one, I can't remember much about it at all, to tell you the truth. So you can read the Blake 7 series of books. I've only ever read the first one, which I cannot remember as well, which is based on the first Blake 7 book, which is based on the pilot episode, from what I was remember. And that was actually written by Terry Nation, wasn't it? From memory serving me right. But you need to watch a bit of dodgy science fiction like that anyway. But what I do love about the Blake 7 fact is, watching it, yes. I said these, as I was just saying just before you arrived, Gavin, these are the up ones done in HD. I've got them on DVD as well, and the 3rd season is coming out in December that they've upscaled as well. And I was reading a thing with Matt Irving, the special effects guy who did the original effects, and they got him back in to reshoot with the original models some of the effects that they were redoing. So I'm quite excited to get that, but there's a very good chance that I'm going to go into these earlier anyway, because Rosie, my wife, wants to watch them as well because she's never seen them all. I think we watched the first series together a couple of years back, and I've watched them many, many times. But yeah, going back to books, it is about 3 or 4 books. They did one written by Terry Nation for the first one, which was the pilot, and I've got somewhere in a box somewhere probably And they did a couple others that I never read. But yeah, you do need to read Earthsea, though. To me, it's underrated. It's really weird that it's not mentioned a lot of the time in the same breath as Lord of the Rings, because it's really quite iconic in that way, in those ways. And to me, it's some of Le Guin's best work. I'm not the biggest Le Guin fan. Oh yeah, I'm quite happy to read. I'd love to watch along with you, Gareth. We can have a nice discussion about random facts about which quarry they shot which scene in. I know there's quite a few fans over in America of Blake Seven and obviously Doctor Who. So now there's not going to be a new series of Doctor Who for a while. It gives somebody to do. Yes, if you've never seen Blake Seven, anybody else watching, like Doctor Who in the 70s and 80s, every now and then you'd find a random quarry that they seem to have shot as a planet with some weird that and power plants. Power plants were the other thing, which were always sort of space stations and spaceships. It was the BBC, and they had budgets, but in some ways that did creativity. Oh, it's great. Yeah, I think a lot of people said, Gavin just said about Michael Vaughan watching first series of early Doctor Who's and loving it. I do. I just recently watched one of the Peter Davison ones, Enlightenment. The episodes are called, which is about solar sailing, because I've suddenly got a weird obsession about solar sails. So I decided that I would dig this episode out. I found, I think Gavin reminded me which ones it was, and I dug it out and rewatched it, and it is really, really good. It's all, and you forget, if you ignore janky effects and stuff like that, it is, plot wise, they got so creative with what they could do with limited money, and I think that's always a problem when people start chucking money at things. You don't have to think ways around stuff, so I think the plots don't get as inventive. But it's nice that we can get people into stuff like this all these years later. Yeah. But yeah, I've just finished watching, as I said, where's my book? Trying to work out what I was going to do next. The problem with this random lives. Yeah, no, you shouldn't judge science fiction on its effects. I've watched many of films that got really, really terrible effects, but that doesn't matter. It's the plot, it's the feel, it's the actors. But even if the actors aren't particularly good, sometimes it still works. But it's really weird. You shouldn't judge science fiction on the science fiction, which sounds really weird, especially in books. I think people expect science fiction always to be big spaceships and exploding things, and science fiction is so much more than that. And what counts as science fiction is much more. It's more about you can get it about big ideas, but a lot of it's about the things. It doesn't predict the future. It more reflects what's going on at the time. And that's always my argument. When people say they hate science fiction, I think, well, you've just not read, which sounds a bit sort of, what's the word? Judgmentally saying not read the right thing, but I think it's because you've not found the right thing. You probably read science fiction, didn't even know you were reading science fiction just because it was a nice story. It's very hard to describe that. Anyway, so yeah, I think most of the stuff I was going to talk about. I said over the next month I hope to get back in video production again. Now everybody's left, and I said I've been rebuilding this office area here, which has been quite a bit, and just trying to sort some books as well out. So the first video is going to be one on The Circle, as I said. I can't even remember the author's name again. I keep forgetting it. Dave Eggers. The Circle. I'm going to do a video of that coming out this week. Hopefully, I will do a tag because I'm behind on millions of those. And then I'm going to have one on The Wall, a book by Gautam Bhatia, an Indian author, which, spoiler, I really liked. And it's part of my thing about different countries' science fiction. And there's probably a few other things I'm going to do. I said I've got the one that I'm thinking about doing about body replacements, because there's also because I was talking about oi, as I said, my dogs may go off. Oi, come here, silly Sharpei. Leo. It's just a noise outside. It's because I have to have the window open because it's so bloody hot, and the dogs are hearing stuff outside. Oi, Sharpei, you silly girl. Come here. Ruby Rooster. Ruby. Yeah, the high-pitched one is the Pomeranian. The deep one is the Sharpei, the wrinkly girl. Hey? Yes, you. It's because I had to have the window open because it's hot outside. Though I said it's not as hot as it is down south. But every time they hear a noise outside, somebody walk past a house or a car, they're going off. So apologies for that, but it was going to happen. I said I'm hoping if I'm doing these regularly, I said one a month that I'm hoping to, I'll normally be able to shut the window and we wouldn't have this issue. Because normally if this happens when I'm recording video, generally I can edit it out. I can't remember where I was, what I was saying, but I think that's about all the stuff I was going to have. Those are the two main videos I was going to be doing over the next month. And there's probably something else that I've totally forgotten I was going to include in this video. But anyway, thank you for the people that have turned up to Gavin and Gareth. And I said I'll hopefully be participating more in the booktube excitement. And now all my stressful visits and building works are done and my head is getting back in the right place. And I will speak to everybody very soon and I will sign off for now. And I said this will be up. I said my plan is the last Sunday of every month. I'm going to hopefully be doing sort of my roundups. And my plan is 5 o'clock unless people say to me, hey, could you do it at this time? And that'll work better for more people, because having people actually here is quite nice to know that I'm not totally talking by myself. So I will say goodbye for now, and I will see you in the next one. And I said, keep an eye out for some couple of videos this week. Bye for now. Oop, plenty of, I think. Ooh.